Well, good evening. It's 11 o'clock in the evening in Cork in Ireland. JJ FXRUS, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Theory, hello. Nice to see you again. Moonsinger 13, very welcome. Kathy Stanley, from Philadelphia. JJ Honaz, hello. Philadelphia, fantastic. Now, trying to remember where everybody's from. But, so we've got Philadelphia and Watford, tell you that for sure. And, okay, and then, yeah, Moonsinger. Couldn't recommend Moonsinger 13 too highly, by the way. Hal Sherman, hello Hal, hello. Good evening. I Can Inspire is here. Richard McCann, I think. Richard, yeah. Oh, well, you must follow him, I tell you that. Joker Man. Now, Theory is working in Los Angeles. So just be listening. Working. Oh, right. Hal Sherman's invited followers, and wonderful Miss Quick, who teaches English to French people in Paris, is here. This is terrific. I'm so pleased. I want to show you something special though before getting into the poetry reading. One of my sons gave me this book, Selected Poems by Walt Whitman. Right, no big deal, it's a collection of selected poems by Walt Whitman. You might think, hello Downey S.I. However, right, and then we turn in here and we find that this book was owned by a person called Smith in 1894, November the 7th, 1894. So this book was owned in 18. Now, we come a little bit closer to this, and there's a picture of the poet. This is a picture of the poet Walt Whitman. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting, because this book was published in New York in 1892, the year of Whitman's death. Right? Whitman died in 1892. So this is selected poems of Walt Whitman in the year, published the year that he died. But it looks to me as if, because this is copyright 1855. Now 1855, if you can see that, 1855 is the year that Leaves of Grass, Whitman's collection, was first published. And you can see that it was, republished. Or else that copyright means that the poems are taken from editions of Whitman. And I think that's what it is. So this is American poetry, right? This is American poetry. If I'm a little afraid to read you all of, I won't read you all of this introduction, but let me just read you a little bit of what the editor of this collection had to say. I sincerely believe this little collection will be a revelation, even to those who know their Whitman. It seems to me that a defective lyrical sense can be the only excuse for those who do not find him wonderfully rhythmic. So you've got a defective lyrical sense if you don't find him wonderfully rhythmic. Some may declare that I have tried to chisel a statuette out of a particularly rugged boulder. Isn't that a nice thing? Chisel a statuette out of a particularly rugged boulder. But if they will admit that the carving has been neatly done, they are welcome to call the book a paradox. They're welcome to call the book a paradox. Oh yeah, there's a lot of precision there. Now, folks, I'm going to read you something which I have never read aloud before. And the interesting thing about this particular poem is that it was put into this selected poems And so it's put into here. So if you were to sort of pick Whitman's best poems, they'd be in here. So this one from Drum Taps, published or well written during the American Civil War, is what I'm going to read you. Friends, good evening. I'm just putting resting the iPhone on my laptop right there. And thank you very much for being here. And I feel a little like an opera singer, you know, on stage, when you could easily screw up the high note, right? If any of you have any interest in live opera, you'll know what I mean by the fact that even in the best opera theatres, a very great singer, or a very good singer at the very least, can actually miss the high note. I've heard it on more than one occasion in Covent Garden in London. So there's the mug, and look, Paul, Rich Paul. Okay, here we go. I've never read this particular poem before. It's called The Wound Dresser. Now look, just to explain a little bit. Whitman dressed wounds for people in hospital during the Civil War in Washington. So he very much writes poetry out of his own personal experience. So he won't be writing about, there are other people dressing wounds. I'm not sure what we have in store, but here we go. The Wound Dresser by Walt Whitman, in my view, the greatest American poet. An old man bending, I come among new faces, years looking backward, resuming in answer to children. Come tell us, old man, as from young men and maidens that love me. Aroused and angry, I thought to beat the alarm and urge relentless war, but soon my fingers failed me and my face dropped, and I resigned myself to sit by the wounded and soothe them, or silently watch the dead. Years hence of these scenes, of these furious passions, these chances of unsurpassed heroes, was one side so brave, the other was equally brave. Now be witness again. Paint the mightiest armies of earth. Of those armies so rapid, so wondrous, what saw you to tell us? What stays with you, latest and deepest, of curious panics, of hard-fought engagements or sieges, tremendous, what deepest remains? Part 2. O maidens and young men, I love, and that love me. What you ask of my days, those the strangest and sudden yours talking recalls. Soldier alert, I arrive after a long march covered with sweat and dust. In the nick of time I come, plunge in the fight, loudly shout in the rush of successful charge. Enter the captured works, yet lo, like a swift running river they fade, pass and are gone they fade. I dwell not on soldiers' perils or soldiers' joys. Both I remember well, many the hardships, few the joys, yet I was content. But in silence, in dreams' projections, while the world of gain and appearance and mirth goes on, so soon what is over forgotten, and waves wash the imprints off the sand. With hinged knees returning, I enter the doors. While for you up there, whoever you are, follow without noise and be of strong heart.
bearing the bandages, water and sponge. Straight and swift to my wounded I go, where they lie on the ground after the battle brought in, where their priceless blood reddens the grass, the ground, or to the rows of the hospital tent, or under the roofed hospital, to the long rows of cots up and down each side I return. To each and all, one after another, I draw near. Not one do I miss. An attendant follows, holding a tray. He carries a refuge pail, soon to be filled with clotted rags and blood, emptied and filled again. I onward go. I stop. With hinged knees and steady hand to dress wounds, I am firm with each. The pangs are sharp, yet unavoidable. One turns to me his appealing eyes. Poor boy, I never knew you. Yet I think I could not refuse this moment to die for you, if that would save you. Part 3. On I go. Open doors of time, open hospital doors. The crushed head I dress. Poor, crazed hand, tear not the bandage away. The neck of the cavalryman with a bullet through and through I examine. Hard the breathing rattles, quite glazed already the eye, yet life struggles hard. Come, sweet death, be persuaded, oh, beautiful death, in mercy come quickly. From the stump of the arm, the amputated hand, I undo the clotted lint, remove the slough, wash off the matter and blood. Back on his pillow the soldier bends with curved neck and side falling head. His eyes are closed, his face is pale. He dares not look on the bloody stump, and has not yet looked on it. I dress a wound in the side, deep, deep, but a day or two more, for see the frame all wasted and sinking, and the yellow-blue countenance see. I dress the perforated shoulder, the foot with the bullet wound, cleanse the one with a gnawing and putrid gangrene, so sickening, so offensive, while the attendant stands behind me, holding the tray and pail. I am faithful. I do not give out. The fractured thigh, the knee, the wound in the abdomen, these and more I dress with impassive hand, yet deep in my breast a fire, a burning flame. Part 4. Thus in silence, in dreams, projections, returning, resuming, I thread my way through the hospitals. The hurt and wounded I pacify with soothing hand. I sit by the restless all the dark night. Some are so young, some suffer so much. I recall the experience, sweet and sad. Many a soldier's loving arms about this neck have crossed and rested. Many a soldier's kiss dwells on these bearded lips. That's it. I guess that was what it was like for him. Thank you, Miss Joy. Thank you, Miss Joy. Welcome, Cotswolds. Oh, isn't that a good phrase? Poetry is such a visual, visceral language. Visual and visceral. Double V.